Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I am, of course, Nick McDaniel, and as always, I am joined by Mama Myron.
Hey. Thanks for listening, folks. It's Royal Rumble weekend recap, or whatever happened. We're just going to talk about the weekend, not just the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, tons of stuff to cover, but the Rumble was the big one, right?
Yep.
So, before we get started, we always want to remind everybody who's given us a listen, make sure if you're a huge fan of the show, check us out over at patreon.com/tappedoutpod. Become a subscriber over there. Catch the show early. Catch the show notes before the show even drops. All that good stuff. And lots of extras along the way. And some new little treats down the road as we try to throw some stuff out there.
Yes.
But again, patreon.com/tappedoutpod. We appreciate everybody who's there.
Thank you.
Absolutely. But you brought it up, man. It's, big weekend. Lots of stuff going on. Biggest event, of course, was this past Sunday. Royal Rumble. We officially, have that show and sets us off on the road to WrestleMania. So WrestleMania season is officially here. And at least with the Rumble, we kind of have a direction where we're going.
Let's be honest. Was there anything you didn't like about the show?
No, not really. I mean, there's really wasn't. And I mean, overall, like I said, it was a good show. I know you, as I always tell people, you can nitpick it, obviously. And
yes. Those referees just made bad calls. It's not college football, folks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's start at the top. Let's, because we're going to go through this pretty quick. The men's Rumble, let's start there because that's kind of where, it's always the big topic, right? Edge wins.
Yes.
Edge is going to go on and challenge whomever. At this point, they have not decided.
Charlotte last year took on the NXT title. And guess who Edge is going to be on? By the time you see this, Wednesday night, Edge would have been on NXT.
Correct. So. Do you think, okay, we all have read, let's get this out of the way. We've all clearly heard and read that everybody's pointing to he's going to wrestle Roman, at Mania. Okay, let's all that preface. That's what we read and that's what we've heard. It would be kind of cool to see him and Finn.
Keep the drama up. Keep us suspended. Don't let us know where you're going. Show up on this show. Show up on all 3 shows this week, which he's planning on doing. That makes it interesting. And that's, I'll be talking about who Edge is going to wrestle, thinking about it, And they succeeded. They got him over with the Rumble. It's good to see him back. I hope he can do without injury. He looked good last time I saw him. Keeping away from Randy's probably a good thing for a while. I'm not got a problem with that.
I think they're going to have them intertwined a little along the way. I think they'll never get them apart, which is kind of cool. But Edge, he'll kind of do his thing over here. Randy's going to be tangled up, obviously, still with the Fiend.
Yeah, that's a good angle.
Yeah, but the more I think about it, I know they live in that area. But Beth is doing commentary for NXT.
Yep.
It would be like, what if Edge were to win the NXT championship from Finn Balor? They'd be on the same show every week. They live right there in the area. Of course, I know everybody's like, well, they're filming everything in that area. Yes, they are. So, Tampa, Orlando, it's not that far apart. But it would be cool. And guess what it would do, by the way? It would draw eyes to NXT.
Oh, yeah. And guess they're running against another show, too. Yeah. They're the only show with direct wrestling competition.
Think about that. If Edge, would Edge draw viewership to NXT?
I think it's brilliant.
Yeah. Who knows? Speaking of NXT, while we're having the conversation about the Rumble, we both had this conversation before this event, before we recorded, and it was funny. We were like, who stood out more than anybody in the men's Rumble? And we both said the same name, which was
Damian Priest. Man, you talk about a package deal with him, ready to go. And they can't lose. I don't want to make any predictions. I don't think they can lose with this guy. I think he is 100% big show ready to be out in front of people on a regular basis and be a big star. He's been a wrestler for a while. He picked up on the WWE style very adequately. Looking forward to seeing how this works out.
Yeah, he's deceivingly big. Like when you're watching him because of his movement, you don't think it.
Nope.
But then when we saw him in there with these other big dudes, you're like, he is a big dude.
Looks like a wrestler, walks like a wrestler.
Absolutely agreed. And if nothing else, we can point out the fact that clearly they're invested in him.
Yes.
I mean, they had him do some key eliminations. They had him. I mean, think about it. He went toe to toe with Kane. So listen, I mean, that don't happen if they've got nothing for you. So kudos to Damian Priest.
Yeah. And didn't they give him the bunny on Raw?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now listen, I know everybody wants to crap on that, but this is all goes back to we're not necessarily in that demo. And it's a little. Let's be honest with you. I'm not gonna hang up on this a lot because of the other stuff we want to talk about. But let's be fair. I think it's a little narcissistic of us to talk about like we don't know who he is. Okay, well, he's big all over the world, not a United States thing. So let that be a little bit of a slide. I don't want to be the U.S. centric. Talent. So like if they brought in somebody who was a huge star in Mexico and they brought him in and we shit all over him, then you'd be like, well, he's not big here. Okay, well, they're an international market, so. Never
been able to capture the Hispanic market from WWE. This could be brilliant. Okay?
I hope it's not
permanent. It works. Yeah. I don't know. I don't even listen to it. You know what? Because I had a little cushion in my fast forward, and I just zipped right through the bunny. And if I hadn't, I'd have just muted it and went over and done something else on another screen, because if I don't watch things I don't want to see. Vince McMahon did not nail my feet to the floor in front of a TV screen playing the Rumble.
Now, I will tell you where my eyes didn't move from. Christian's return was pretty badass.
Yes,
good sentimental moment. Choke up a little bit when you see the Edge and Christian reunion and all that kind of stuff. And the word is the same thing. He's going to be a part. Here, we're going to address something later that I think contributes to the fact that guys like Edge and the guys like Christian and Carlito, obviously, they're talking about him getting a 3-week tryout of some kind. The MVP kind of put the word out to try to bring him in. There's a reason these guys, I think, have the possibility and some longevity in this time. And like I said, we're going to discuss that later in the show. I just wanted to say that's, So let's move on to the women's. Bianca wins. I know there was the controversial moment where her feet were touching the ground. Pictures went out. Listen, don't let the facts ruin a good story.
It's wrestling.
It's wrestling. Yeah.
Enjoy it. It was a great women's Royal Rumble. Okay? I didn't think the whole R-Truth spot was disrespectful. Be like, that was disrespectful. No. Okay? It happened. They've done an R-Tooth or some kind of comedy spot in, how many women's Royal Rumbles they got now?
There's 4. I think this was the 4th one.
Okay. At least they didn't do a man dressed as a woman like they did in that other one when Santino Marella came out. So what? So what? The women's Royal Rumble was terrific. Rhea Ripley is becoming my absolute favorite women's wrestler. Okay? She is badass. The way they set that up, Charlotte got thrown out of the ring, and you see Charlotte looking up like, oh. And then they did that double. I was so excited to do that. It was incredible. And that's what it's supposed to do, folks.
Yeah. Speaking of doing what it was supposed to, I know a lot of people really put the grief. Everybody was afraid Goldberg was going to defeat Drew McIntyre for the title, and that way they could get it onto somebody else at Mania or something like that. Look, for what it was, it served its purpose. The purpose was Goldberg came in, did the job for McIntyre, hopefully getting him over a little bit, because we have always claimed, like, the younger talents to get over. The problem is who you beat.
Exactly.
At least now he's got a Goldberg win.
He got a big Goldberg win.
He's got a Brock win. So he's building a resume to try to, say he's over. So
you got to submit a legacy, man. He's got to be a big T-shirt seller. He's got to be the kind of guy that gets his own special.
Yeah.
Okay? WWE Network specials. That's what they want.
Yeah. We're going to discuss a specific spot later on in the show with the Roman Kevin match. Same thing, man. I thought they did a really good job.
Yeah.
I don't rate matches very well, but I would say, like, if I were rating this match, I'd give it probably an A-. Listen, and again, we'll address the golf cart spot here in a minute. I know everybody wants to talk about that, but I thought they did a good job. The women's tag thing, pre-show, the kickoff, whatever the heck you want to call it. By the way, I know you talked about it. You were a huge fan of the kickoff show.
Yeah, the kickoff show was pretty good, man. I enjoyed it. I don't typically watch those. And, with Renee Young gone, maybe it's gotten better. Maybe Charlie Caruso is the one to lead. You know, you need a person to. You got a bunch of old wrestlers sitting around, okay? And she was leading them, and things were working out real good, and it made sense. JBL and them. They brought Sonya Deville on. Sonya Deville is somebody who could eventually be one of those people like Beth Phoenix who retires into a commentary spot.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. It's good stuff. It was good stuff.
Yeah.
I liked it.
But speaking on the kickoff, they had the women's tag match. This is where I was going with this. Listen, I get it. Like, you know, I thought honestly I thought that Asuka would win, and we'd end up with that whole. I thought Charlotte was going to win the Rumble, by the way, and then we would have had the challenging tag team partners, you know, fighting for the singles title at Mania, etc. But now I think it's got the interesting twist of Lacey being involved, causing them to lose, and then of course, if we saw on Raw, you know, Asuka kind of had the. You know, your issues caused us to lose, so you know, it's not, you know, like basically like I'm gonna let it slide this time.
Yeah, don't let it happen again.
Yeah,
and I like the fact that her promos are terrific, even though I have no idea what she's saying.
She's excited. You know,
she's excited. Yeah. Yes, exactly. You feel it.
Yeah. So I got the vibe that we're looking at possibly Asuka, Lacey, and Charlotte in a 3-way for the Raw Women's title, maybe at Mania. Be kind of cool.
Good. You know, that was the big main event of Mania a while back.
Yeah, I know people crap on Charlotte always being in the main event, but sorry, guys, she deserves to be.
And she looks like $1 million now.
Yeah, she's a star.
You know, I think her.
My wife said she's the definition of less and more, and I'll leave it at that.
Yes, excellent comment, Rachel. Yeah. I do appreciate that for not making me look like a chauvinist pig jerk.
Yeah,
thank you.
But you know, we've already talked about Edge being, you know, I think the Randy Orton thing, they're far from done with Edge, all of that kind of stuff. But there's another thing that's come out of the Rumble with Edge winning and talking about the men's Rumble. Okay, Edge is 47 years old, and he won the Rumble, right? So then, of course, we get out the searing facts that, you know, Dave Meltzer puts out there that it was, in fact, the oldest Royal Rumble, meaning, yes, in the 30-year history, that basically there were only 2 guys, and I believe it was Otis and Dominic, were the only 2 guys under 30 in the Rumble. You know, and then the question is that a problem? Because think about this. Those 2, neither one of them stood a chance, right? Neither one of those 2 guys were winning.
Otis was not a slap out quick. Folks, I'm going to try not to get into the whole David Meltzer is just looking for something shitty to say take, but you got to have stars in these things. And they cater these things to the stars that are going to get memberships on the network or going into Peacock. They're going to tailor this to people who can draw eyes. You know, they're going to tailor it to the people that haven't watched wrestling, but then they hear Edge, who was really cool back when they watched wrestling. You know, you hear Goldberg, you hear Edge. That's a lot of name recognition power. And that makes things better. It makes things better on them as a viewing product. Sure, there's a lot of great young talent, but they've got more Rumbles left in them. Well, they needed a shot in the arm, and they got a shot in the arm.
Here's the thing, though. It's funny that, you know, like, oh, young guys, push. Well, for one thing, everybody seemed pretty happy for the most part. The vocal majority, it seemed like in this case, which is reversed, was happy that a 47-year-old won. How ironic is that? You know, because in years past, somebody that was 42 could win, and an old guy won the, you know. But this year, 47, and they're all happy. On the contrary, you know, there was a younger, you know, Bianca winning. She was 31. So there's your kind of your offset. But I know, you know, I know the comeback from WWE people would be, well, NXT's there to build stars, not the Royal, you know, not WWE, not the Rumble's not that particular. And to be honest with you, that's what NXT's for, is the logic. Yeah. But also in hindsight, when you think about it, your past winners of Triple H, John Cena, The Rock, Charlotte Flair, on and on and on. Most of the time, it's an established guy or girl, you know, depending on whichever Rumble we're talking about, that wins.
It's a setup to set up the match for Mania. A whole thing accumulates. Oh, that's not the word I'm looking for. Culminates. The whole thing culminates in person set up to go on to Mania. Maybe they didn't have time to build a storyline. Maybe this is the storyline for some people. I'm excited. I don't know what they're going to do with Bianca Belair. Think about it. What are they going to do with her? She has not really built anything up on the big show yet. She might still have some stuff she could do in NXT. A lot of positives here. A lot of positives for both.
I have every vibe that we're seeing her and Sasha at WrestleMania.
Ooh, that would be good.
Yeah, that's just
and Sasha showed out. Carmella looked like $1 million. I didn't know
Sasha saved Carmella's life.
Yes.
In that dive, she caught her, and like I said, she almost, that could have ended poorly, but
it happened.
But hey, let's move on. We're going to push right through. We're going to talk about the infamous golf cart spot. Yes, the reason why we're going to talk about it is because people took that as an opportunity to, drag Kenny Omega in it, of course, somehow. And kudos by it. You're about to hear something, I think, folks, that you're really going to fall out of your chair. So make sure you're settled in tight. We are going to talk about. I know Myron especially, it's probably difficult for. We're going to defend Kenny Omega here because I think
it's getting easier this year. Okay, this year, I might say Kenny Omega is most improved in my eyes because of what he's done in AEW and Impact, and he's become a legitimate heel. And now he said that he was cool about this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, because everybody, of course, immediately when we saw the golf cart spot, we saw the Owens diving off of the forklift, lifting up the pallet. Everybody immediately went to the AEW, where they slammed Sammy Guevara with the golf cart, and then Matt Hardy and Sammy Guevara have their spot off of basically the forklift with the pallet. Basically, we can tell. Like, listen, it was. You can say they lifted it, they stole it. Doesn't matter. It is what it is. But the whole thing about it, what was cool in my opinion, is when Kenny's getting all of this push on Twitter, he basically is like, guys, I know they did well, so congratulations to everybody involved.
Mm-hmm.
High Road Kenny, kudos. I mean, because in wrestling, trust me, it's easy to just immediately go down a bad road.
And it's extra toxic right now. Wrestling is extra toxic, and Kenny Omega's a heel right now. It would not have hurt his character to totally shit all over it and make himself out to be a nastier guy. But the thing is, it's going to look better to hit a fat guy than a little skinny guy with a golf cart.
Well, look, Owens did a hell of a job selling it. I mean, the ass over tea kettle through the front of the golf cart was a pretty slick looking thing, to be honest with you. And it's funny, because then, of course, the Twitter feed goes on and on and on. And then there's somebody who's going to take a shot of like, if all these answers are about the golf cart thing, Jerry Lawler and Eddie Gilbert did it, 35 years ago. And of course, Omega comes back with, there's no topping that one. Acknowledging and hey, I appreciate the fact that those guys did it too, right? And then, of course, somebody else has to throw in there, well, I guess, many people seem to have forgotten about WrestleMania 17, or they have never seen it, Guys, again, we go back to, here's the thing. I'm going to make a point. I don't know that there's anything new that can be done in wrestling. You can turn and modify and twist, but the key to the major stories, they've all probably been run.
Oh, yeah. It's like when I saw Todd at Southern Fried Do, he did the I'd like to talk to Tom angle, which was amazing. And I recognized it, and it was great. There are people innovating stuff in wrestling right now, but it's hard to write new. We got to remember, there's been thousands and thousands of hours of wrestling recorded or done. Okay, storylines are very similar. You can't write two guys fighting in a ring or two guys fighting outside a ring and innovate. I mean, Star Wars, Shakespeare, they use all those literary tools. Good guy, bad guy.
Myron,
it goes over.
Think about Hollywood.
Exactly.
They're rehashing the same. They're
not even trying with movies anymore.
They're just taking an old movie and redoing it because the ideas are so. And it's my point of that being is, guys, this whole like, this guy did it first, or that guy did it better, or that guy did it. I mean, if they do a good job with it, man, that's awesome. It's cool. If they don't do it well, it's not. Everything is stolen. Almost everything is stolen in wrestling. It's super hard to do anything new. People that are telling you they're like, we're doing cutting edge new stuff. I guarantee you, if you sat down long enough, it was just done long enough that nobody knew about it, or people have forgotten about it.
The best bookers are the ones that paid attention to wrestling, are wrestling fans. I guarantee you, Todd or Dylan have watched 10 times the amount of wrestling I have. They can quote pay-per-view results back and forth that I've forgotten a long time ago. Some I was even there at, and they remember better than me. It's smart people looking at what other people have done, changing it a little, making it work. Now, yes, it was too close, okay? Without it being just said they did this. And to do them both in the same match, yes, okay? Laugh at it, enjoy it.
Yeah. Think about just how ironic it was that they did it, because you almost want to go, they knew what they were doing.
Yes, they knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah.
And Vince didn't know, because Vince don't watch AEW.
I mean, that's probably true. Somebody probably went into that meeting after watching the AEW match and went into the office and goes, I've got an idea. And they pitched it, and everybody went, sold, no. Let's do it.
I've got an idea.
Yeah, I've got an idea.
I got an idea. That's where that came from.
So it could be. I mean, but listen, I mean, I don't know, but hey.
Hey, this is. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna quote something I said this weekend. First time I'd seen Simon Sermon live, and we were talking about, what I thought of the show, and he said he can entertain. He said, I might not wrestle like I used to, but I can still entertain.
Yeah.
And I watched the Rumble to be entertained. Okay, I go to wrestling shows to be entertained. Maybe that was irony. Yeah. Maybe it was something. I'll watch MMA if I just want to see people hitting each other and art form and shit like that. I like to see goofy stuff. I like to see something that makes me laugh. I like to see something that works. And they gave me something that was entertaining. So.
And I think ultimately at the end of the day, that's kind of where we've become, is that I think we just need to open our brain, shut our brains down, go in there, just try to be entertained, because that's what they're trying to do for the crowds. And, hey, speaking of crowds, let's talk about it, dude. As you see a massive crowd at WrestleMania 30 in the picture here, right? We wanted to talk a little bit about crowds, because it was funny. This all stemmed from something I heard. Would it be a good week if I went by and didn't mention, I heard something on 83 Weeks, and it kind of made me think about something else. Now, this one, I didn't lift the idea. It literally triggered me off into something like on the side about it. And it was one of those things like I was thinking about live crowds, and I was like, is wrestling becoming a television show and not necessarily a live event show anymore? I think we've clearly established that the old business model, where it was all driven by the live event thing, I think we've established it's gone.
You ran your TV on Saturday, the following Friday or the following Monday, you had your live event. The purpose of your TV was to promote your live event that you would sell tickets for, where you made the money.
Right. And now here's the trade-off, Myron. They were making television shows as commercials for the live events.
Yes.
Now I'm asking you, is that live event even necessary anymore? Because as we've proved this past year, WWE didn't run basically 3/4 of the year. More than that, but I'm just using, roughly 3/4 of the year. They didn't even run a live event.
I think
it was one of the most profitable years they had.
Oh yeah, well, the all-time most profitable year.
Yeah.
We went through a period where it was like the switch, the prior to Bischoff switch with Nitro, where the live event went from being the payoff to the advertisement, because you did not have the internet. You had to advertise your product somewhere. You advertised it by coming to town and showing it to people, and then they would watch your television, which got you big contracts and big deals, and they bought pay-per-view. Well, now you got the internet. You got wrestling everywhere. You got on-demand everything. The whole world is on demand right now. And you don't need an advertisement. It's all advertisements. Everything you do and say is an advertisement.
No, 100% agree with you. I mean, it's like I said, we've just proven that the old model doesn't even work anymore. And what it does do, by the way, because here's the thing, everybody's like, oh, what about merch? Website had the best year ever, because you couldn't buy merch at a live event because they didn't do live events. And guess what we've all learned over the last few months? You can just ship anything. You can buy anything and just ship it. It's at your house, and you don't even have to go to a thing. You don't have to wait in that. Because think about this. When we were doing those live events, we would go to some of them at WWE shows, etc.
Oh, yeah.
Holy shit. To get a freaking shirt, you were in a line for God knows how long. Whereas I can just go on my, I can go to WWEshop.com and go click.
Their shipping is amazing. It's not Amazon fast, but it is amazingly fast.
AEW's, and here's the thing, folks. We're not even talking about just WWE. We're talking about AEW. We're talking about Impact. Like, I get it. Like, a lot of people think I just don't think at this point the traveling live event needs to even be done. Think about it. Your workers could work 5 days a month. That's it. AEW's already pulling it off where they're recording one show, or they're doing one show live on Wednesday. They're recording the following week's show on Thursday. So their workers work Wednesday, Thursday. They're literally off almost 2 weeks. And then they do it again. So 4 nights, basically in 2 weeks, they work. And then, of course, when they get around to their quarterly pay-per-view, they have so that's your 5th time. They don't even work 5 times. They work 4 days a month, as Jim Ross pointed out on his podcast. But, of course, the WWE does a pay-per-view every month. Impact could do the same because it's real simple. I don't think I ever want to see an arena half full or 2/3 empty or less. That's my only knock with AEW having the crowds they're having, is because everybody's spaced out.
You know what I haven't seen in a year, Nick?
What?
Some jackass posting a picture from a WWE show talking about how empty it is. Think about it. Did you see that? Somebody would get in there with their cell phone and find the part there was nobody in and take a picture. There's nobody here. They don't sell tickets. Well, you bought a ticket, asshole.
Right.
Why are you doing that?
You're crapping on the fact that you were dumb enough to buy a ticket to a show that you're saying nobody came to. Yeah. But my thing is I don't think I want to see, now, because full disclosure here, I do eventually want to see a full arena, 3/4, whatever, a full arena for an AEW show, and but until I can, I don't want to see the smattering of crowds there. Like, I know at Mania they're going to do a crowd from what we hear. I don't know that I would have. I might have stayed in the Thunderdome.
Because is it the same? Okay, it's not in the same place they are right now. It's at Raymond James.
Correct.
Where they were supposed to be for Mania last year.
It was where they're supposed to be for Mania last year. They're doing the Super Bowl there this year. So then a couple months later, you're going to be doing Mania and the same thing. The Super Bowl's doing 20,000 fans. They get to do 25 because they can have fans on the field, which obviously you can't do, for the Super Bowl. So that's how they fit more fans in. But I mean,
I'd rather see it in Thunderdome.
And you're quite possibly right.
Because they can do more. They can do the cinematic type matches. It just seems to me it'd be better at Thunderdome. Until you can do it 100% right, use the benefits of everything you've got going for you.
Right.
Where you can produce a perfect match, or you can produce a fireball angle. It's not Memphis anymore, folks. It takes a lot more work to make that kind of stuff happen.
I think Mania will be the true barometer of what my opinions are. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%.
And the reason I say that is because I think we're going to see an arena at about a third to a quarter to a third to a quarter full, somewhere in that range. And then so we're going to be able to see how that feels. And after that, I'll tell you my blunt opinion about whether I think, because as you know right now, my opinion has been until you can have a full crowd, stay in Thunderdome.
I didn't mind the noise at Thunderdome. I know people were worried that a Rumble. No, it didn't pop like a major Royal Rumble used to do back in the day, folks. That's the truth. But for what they had to work with, it would sound okay.
I thought they did fine. I thought it was fine. Absolutely agree with you. But hey, what's your thoughts on should they do the crowds or should they hold them off? Should they do? And again, we're not talking about just Raw and Smackdown. We're talking at Dynamite. We're talking Impact. All the above. I know Impact doesn't run with anybody either. Let us know at Tapped Out Pod. Of course, comment below if you are watching the video as well.
Mm-hmm. And you take that money you save not going to WB house shows, and you go to Georgia Indie Wrestling, or you go to Indie Wrestling anywhere in the country.
Absolutely, and that's where we're heading next. We are going to talk about the Georgia Indy Talk. Lots of stuff going on. There was some, big show coming this week, and then of course, the big show we talked about last week. We wanted to go talk about that a little bit. But this week's Indy Talk section, of course, was brought to you by the big show this Friday at Southern Honor Wrestling. So check out real quick right before we get started. Check out what they've got in store for us Friday up at the Action Building at Southern Honor Wrestling.
Attention wrestling fans. Southern Honor Wrestling returns to the Action Building Friday, February 5th for SHW 24. Ashton Starr brings back the Petty Party with special guest Owen Knight.
Will 2021 be the year of Owen Knight?
Number one contenders Lethal Poison battle Matt and Joey Lynch for the SHW Tag Team titles.
Lethal Poison are now your number one contenders.
And in the main event, the Savior David Ali defends his Southern Honor Championship against the monster Sunny Days.
Oh, it could be the end of days for David Ali.
Also in action, Gunnar Miller, Sean Legacy, the Warlord of Weird, Sin Bodhi, and many more. Tickets on sale the night of the show starting at 5 p.m. Doors open at 7, bell time at 8. You don't want to miss this show. SHW, this is our wrestling.
There you see it, man. As always, the first Friday of the month, up at the Action Building in Canton, Georgia. Gary, Dylan, and those guys put on a party like nobody parties up there at the Action Building. So you definitely want to check that out. But before we cover that show, we wanted to conversate about what we saw this past weekend. It was a great cause down in Franklin. It was a 2-hour drive. And we made that haul down there because there's only a couple people that can get me to drive a couple hours in the state of Georgia, and they were both there at the show.
Yes. Guys, wrestling, I don't know how it is if you're not in Georgia. I don't know how, if you're following the business, I don't know how it is for you, but here in Georgia, it's like I wouldn't say a big boys club, but it's like a group of guys that show respect to each other for the most part, and getting together to show respect for Ox in his time of need and show appreciation for him. I couldn't ask for anything more rewarding. He was in a great spirit. We got to see, good God, how many times have we seen Terry Lawler walk out to a dead crowd?
There's a reason he's a legend in Georgia, man. We always joke about it, dude.
God.
He's everywhere he goes, they pop hard for him. They love him. He's been up and down that road for a long, long time, and those roots obviously go deep, right, man?
That man pops. I have seen that man wrestle all over the state of Georgia, and he pops the crowd the same way everywhere he goes. It's crazy. Oh, wow. I love that guy.
Yeah,
so instrumental in helping us.
100% agree with there. I'm full. Yeah, absolutely entered us to a lot of people when we first got started. Known Terry for a long, long time. Nothing but love for Terry Lawler. I jokingly keep saying, like, I want to run a show just so I can book him and Frankie Paris in a reunion match. Team Extreme back in.
That was it. Remember that question you asked me on the way home?
Yeah.
From the show? Those two were it. Oh, man.
And then, what would be cool? Knowing what we know and the history that's there, I want to see Frankie and I want to see Terry, Team Extreme reunion, and I want to see them wrestle Murder One and Chip Day in a tag match.
Yeah.
There's so much history just wrapped up into that. Like, if you're a Georgia wrestling fan, what that means when I talk about those four guys getting into the ring and going at it. You mentioned it earlier. It was kind of cool because, like I said, he does work a lot further away from us. It was the first time we got to see Simon Sermon live and in person, and 100% accurate, by the way. Total entertainment.
Yes.
However, let's go on full out there. He was with a great dancing partner out of the ring.
Yes.
Matt Hankins being outside the ring was just a massive, massive good. Massive pairing to put together to come off to entertain that crowd.
They work that crowd. Like conductors. Man, it was beautiful. Just watching that, just seeing how two guys that know how to do that kind of stuff can bring people into a match, entertain them, and get them. It was excellent. It was like what they wrestling we watched as kids.
It's the proof of the era that if these younger kids, that if they watch a match like that where we bring up the concept of you don't have to do crazy moves to entertain. That crowd was thoroughly entertained in a match And it wasn't they can't work, is they didn't have to be crazy.
Exactly.
In the sense of the work they were doing.
Suicide, Hurricane Rana, you don't need all that stuff, guys.
If you left that match not entertained, then you probably I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know what you could do. That's kind of my crazy thing. So, but now, hey, let's kick into this week. I mean, I don't want to, great calls, like I said earlier. Ox, wish you the best, man. I don't want to move on without taking a minute to say that that's what that show was all about, and it was cool for all those guys to kind of step up and do that for Ox and help raise a little money to help him out in his time of need. And now let's move on to Southern Honor. Dude, there's so much going on this show, by the way. I mean, just it's insane. Look, what I love about something on the indie scene is what? Nobody else hardly does segments, like the petty party. I mean,
yes,
it's going to be awesome to Ashton to get the petty party back out there. So you clearly know you're going to be entertained with that. Is there any other stuff like what do you want to see most? Because I know you took a holiday and you're actually coming.
I just want to kick back and watch the crowd pop and see the reaction to all this stuff and hear when the guys come down and the fans pop and Diana Michelle calls these people out. It just works up to a frenzy. It's like a live event for WWE when it's really popping, guys.
Yeah.
Production's good. It looks great. Very enjoyable show. I recommend it to anybody who wants to see a live wrestling show. Get out there, and you're going to see some guys that are either on the cusp of making it, or people who have been to the show, or people who are coming back are going to the show next.
Yeah.
You will really enjoy the show. So trust me.
Yeah. You got Lethal Poison and Lynch Mob for the tag titles. I mean, look, so much talent in that match that it's got to be good, right? You've got, listen, Exotic Youth was up for Tag Team of the Year in Georgia Wrestling History Awards. This new team, I am so intrigued by. Huck and Hanson, William Huckabee and Hold My Beer Hanson.
Yes.
Is Huck going to take this young kid under his wing and groom him along and bring him along to make him a star? Because think about it, guys. Joe Black, your Wrestler of the Year, was somebody that Huck had, that was right there, that kind of helped mentor him along the way. Could this be the next step for Hold My Beer Hanson? And by the way, if you haven't seen the shirts, you got to grab one, the All-Star Special or whatever the hell they're calling it.
Yeah.
But definitely check that out. Chris Banks is returning for his second show. He's going to wrestle Gunnar Miller. Could be a tough night for Chris Banks. Chris Banks is going to have, Chris Banks can talk about himself in the third person and say Chris Banks is probably going to have a tough night with Gunnar Miller. Listen, there's two matches that I'm super intrigued by. Clearly, we're setting up a feud in this tag team because we're going to have Chip Day versus Kevin Ryan, Kyle Matthews versus Jordan Kingsley. So it's got the potential there to be two clinics where these two old veterans, as we might want to call them, can teach these young bucks a thing or two about wrestling. So, and then of course, last but not least, I know Sean Legacy's going to be action. It's got to be Vari Morales, man. He's been on every show, and I just there's something that screams star about Vari Morales.
He's popping that crowd, man. Yeah. They love him there, and that's usually a good indication of who's got a chance to go big. That's what the Southern Honor crowd likes.
I hate to be this way, guys. If you haven't booked Vari Morales, you probably need to be booking him as much as possible because he's not going to be here much longer. I just really have the gut feeling that he's going to be moved on by the time. If you're kind of, we'll wait and see. No, he ain't going to be here, folks.
Well, hey, tell you what, Nick. He's going to be on the Mucha Lucha show on March 14th.
Yeah.
And guess what? Who's off work? This is the perfect time to take our musical producer.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'll be a great show.
Translate.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll buy the tickets.
There we go. I'll mention that along as well. Last but not least, the guy who made a super strong case to be Wrestler of the Year last year and Most Improved, for both spots, Mr. David Ali. I mean, you can't even call him Mr. Two Belts anymore because he's racking up, belts all over the place, all over the state of Georgia. But he could be facing his toughest test because, as I like to point out, Sunny Days don't care about titles. Sunny Days inflicts pain.
Yes.
So that one's going to be a real barn burner because it's going to be somebody that he's not used to facing, and I think that'll be a good show. So I know Austin Towers, by the way, and Sin Bodhi are going to be on the card as well. So it'll be cool to see Sin Bodhi in person. Haven't seen him there. Lots of crazy other stuff real quick, man. I know Southern Fried's coming back.
Yay! I am so happy about this. Such a good news for Georgia wrestling and Georgia wrestling fans. Man, at the Knoll Rec Center, I saw somebody somebody was the architect for that place. I can't remember who it was, but I'll look into that later. Great building. Love to see him wrestling there. Yeah. Saw so many shows there.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little worried that they weren't, they didn't have any. They had those like a momentum going with this feud with David and Todd.
Yep.
I was worried that we're going to be months and months and months of a show with no show, and they would lose that momentum. So I'm really excited that they're at least back because look, they're historically one of the big three in Georgia, the big three players. So like you said, I think it's a good thing that they're back into the mix and back running. Now we just need Viral back. I mean, listen, James Caleb Kitchens, Josh Hancock, those guys in there. I know it's a tough look. I trust me, I understand. Lots of stuff going on, but I think Georgia needs them back, and because IWE, they're loaded. Listen, little birdies are sweet, like what's coming for March, for IWE, and they're loading up. So between IWE loading up, if we can get Viral back, and it's out of their hands, folks. I totally understand, but literally, I think by March and April. Georgia wrestling could be firing back on all cylinders if we can get everybody back running. Look, I get it. I'm being super optimistic. I'm fully aware of that. But please let it happen.
Yes, please, please, please.
Oh, man, it's, because with all those promotions, we miss them not running. The constant, the guys got places to work. They're keeping them busy. And then, of course, all of the action and all the scuttlebutt that goes on. Come on back, guys. We need you back. That's all we're going to say about that.
We love you and we need you.
We do. Absolutely 110%. We need you too, guys. We need you to go somewhere, whether anywhere and everywhere. Subscribe. Whether it's anywhere you listen to your podcast, it doesn't matter. Apple Music, iHeartMedia, Spotify, Amazon Music, blah, blah, blah. All the places. Anywhere you listen to your podcast, subscribe. Maybe even YouTube if you want to subscribe there and watch the show there. Of course, you can follow us, all over on all forms of social media at Tapped Out Pod. That would be awesome. We just, like I said, we always appreciate anybody and everybody who's always supported the show.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. But, man, we're almost out of time. You got anything else before we get out of here? Anything?
Man, this week I don't have anything else, Nick. I feel good. I'm happy. I'm looking forward to wrestling Friday night. It's WrestleMania season, so I'm going to point to the sign here, and let's go home.
All right, brother. Well, what's the old saying, man? If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
It's time to tap out.